it would not have been my advice for Erika in a stage of grieving to go from being the widow to being the CEO and the chairman of the company. If I was running the company, I would have said, let's put in place an interim CEO, right? Someone below Justin Strife, I think, was the COO. I would have put in an interim CEO and allowed people to figure things out. Because it is a true statement that there's two things happening here. There's a widow, and then there is the chairman and the CEO. And that person, no matter what, is going to have to catch heat for any decisions the business is making. That's just the reality of the way the world works. When you're a CEO and you're a boss, if a mistake is made, doesn't matter whether you did it, whether you said it, whether you tweeted it, it's going to come down on you. And she has assumed that role, okay? So criticisms pertaining to anything at Turning Point USA that are being directed at Erika are fair. Obviously, they are fair if they are directed about Turning Point USA and their actions. The second thing that I would say, and again, this is as unsolicited advice, so...
Didn't your husband just get his face blown off like 2 seconds ago? And not to be insensitive about it, but everyone's thinking it. No one wants to be the asshole. No one wants to say it. Everyone's thinking it. Everyone was thinking it when she gave the first speech. Everyone was definitely thinking it at the memorial. Nobody wants to say it because it's inappropriate. It's insensitive. I am the troll, right? So I'll be the one to say it. I think it's super inappropriate. I think it's inappropriate. I think it's weird. It's bizarre. Something is off there.
In the energy right now is that people, irrespective of what's happening on paper, don't believe the story. They don't believe the story. And you are, and of course, this is only a snippet of the interview, so I'm sure more will be said here. But I'm getting that you have seen the case. You think it's a solid case. She thinks it's a solid case at least, and is saying, show everybody what you have so they can see true evil. Within her capacity of chairman and CEO of Turning Point USA, they could be more transparent about what happened that day. People don't like the stuff that they've seen about Mikey McCoy. They don't like what they've seen about Rob McCoy. They don't like the history of Rob and Mikey McCoy and their involvement here. They don't like the video of Terrell. They don't believe what time text messages were sent or when the phone calls took place. You know, Rob McCoy is lying. In the areas that you can control the transparency, I think doing that would be beneficial to Turning Point USA, because I don't think Turning Point USA is going to survive if they continue down this path of, you know, Tyler Boyer late night tweeting at donors as he did over the weekend. I think he directed his fire at like John Mappin and Arena Mappin.
In moments of heartbreak, people often say grief reveals truth. It strips away the filters, showing who we really are when the world stops making sense. But in this story, grief didn't just reveal pain. It sparked one of the most heated online debates of the year. It began with Candace Owens. Known for her blunt takes and refusal to hold back, she stepped into a conversation most people were too afraid to touch. Charlie's sudden, tragic passing had already left fans stunned. But what came after, Erika's silence, became the spark that ignited a storm. Candace argued that in nearly every devastating situation she's seen, the surviving spouse is usually the first to demand transparency. They push for answers, question inconsistencies, and seek justice for the person they loved. Yet in this case, Erika didn't. She wasn't calling for a deeper probe, wasn't challenging the official story. She stayed silent. To Candace, that silence didn't signal strength. It raised alarm. And the internet immediately split in two. Half of social media claimed Candace had crossed a line, attacking a grieving widow who deserved space and compassion. The other half insisted she was saying what everyone else was thinking, but too cautious to voice. Screenshots, podcasts, and endless reaction clips flooded every platform. Was Candace uncovering something deeper, or cruelly targeting a woman in pain? But Candace didn't flinch. She doubled down, saying her comments weren't impulsive or personal. They came from genuine suspicion, a feeling that something about Erika's behavior didn't fit the pattern of a heartbroken widow seeking justice. Still, her words didn't appear from thin air. There was a trigger, a leak that changed everything. It started with a private group chat. Candace revealed she had access to a conversation involving several people close to Charlie. According to her, the screenshot that surfaced online was real. She claimed she had shared it quietly with a few trusted people, believing it might hold valuable context about Charlie's final days. But once that screenshot escaped her circle, it spread faster than anyone could control. The messages hinted at tension, disagreements, and missing details that didn't match the calm, united image seen publicly. It was the first crack in the narrative. Proof, some said, that not everyone behind the scenes was on the same page. The moment it hit social media, it exploded. Users zoomed in on every word, dissected the tone, and built timelines as if piecing together a puzzle. Supporters said the leak justified Candace's suspicions. She wasn't attacking Erika without cause. She was reacting to inconsistencies. Critics, however, accused her of weaponizing a private tragedy for views. Either way, the leak shifted the story. The question was no longer, is Candace being too harsh? It became, why was this hidden from the public? Then, a new name entered the chaos. Joe Rogan. Joe mentioned the controversy on his podcast, and just like that, the discussion leapt from online gossip to national attention. He didn't make bold claims or call anyone guilty. Instead, he did what he always does. Ask the questions millions were whispering. Why were details missing? Why was information so fragmented? Joe's tone was calm, analytical, but undeniably skeptical. And for many, that was enough to give the conversation legitimacy. His audience is huge. When Joe Rogan raises a question, the internet listens. Clips from his podcast flooded TikTok, X, and Instagram. Overnight, what began as a niche debate became a full-blown investigation by the public. Some praised Joe for breaking the silence and demanding transparency. Others accused him of fanning the flames of grief and confusion. But one fact became clear. Once Joe Rogan joined the discussion, there was no going back. Everyone involved was forced into the spotlight. Then came the next turning point, the timeline debate. Online investigators began comparing public statements, timestamps, and news reports. That's when something strange surfaced. According to Erika's own words, she received a phone call alerting her that Charlie was in distress. But when that call time was compared with the official report, it didn't line up. It seemed her call came before the recorded incident time. Now, sure, time zones, shock, or reporting errors could explain that. But once social media caught on, nuance disappeared. Screenshots of side-by-side timelines spread everywhere with captions like, "Make this make sense." Critics argued that if it was just a misunderstanding, it should have been cleared up immediately. Silence only deepened suspicion. Erika's defenders pushed back, saying grief distorts memory. You can't expect precision from someone in shock. Still, the timeline question opened a door that wouldn't close. And then the rooftop footage hit. Authorities released a short clip, claiming it showed Tyler Robinson, the alleged suspect, moments after. The incident. It was supposed to clear confusion, but instead it did the opposite. The grainy footage showed a man moving across a rooftop, fast and steady. But Tyler was known to have a serious leg injury. That's when Candace pounced. On her show, she argued that the person in that clip didn't move like Tyler at all. Supporters began comparing older videos of Tyler walking to the rooftop footage, frame by frame. The analysis was obsessive. Body posture, gait, even height. Everything was examined. To some, the differences were undeniable. To others, it was internet overreach fueled by grief and speculation. Critics said camera angles and low quality could easily distort appearances. But Candace's camp argued that if authorities wanted transparency, they should have released the full footage, not a cropped, edited snippet. Then came a subtle, almost invisible shift. One that many missed at first. Erika began stepping into a much more visible role. She started making polished public statements, speaking on behalf of Charlie's legacy, and positioning herself as the face of healing and continuation. For many, that felt natural. She was his partner, after all. But others noticed how quickly she seemed to adapt to that leadership space, almost as if a new narrative was being rolled out before people even processed what had happened. Soon another name kept appearing, Michael McCoy, often called Mikey. He'd been mentioned in Erika's tribute post, but suddenly his name started circulating more. Reports suggested he was managing communications, handling messages, and even acting as a gatekeeper around Erika. Some fans praised him for keeping things organized. Others claimed he was controlling information, filtering what reached the public. Critics said the organization moved forward too smoothly, too fast, as if grief had turned into a coordinated brand campaign. Supporters argued it was just professionalism, a team trying to keep things afloat during crisis. But skeptics saw something else, a seamless transition that looked less like recovery and more like succession. And then, the rumor that reignited everything. Online users began whispering about a longer cut of the rooftop video, one that allegedly showed a woman near the suspect before he left. Those claiming to have seen it said it circulated briefly before disappearing entirely. Some claimed they heard a female voice in the background. Others swore they saw what looked like an exchange of an object. No one could verify it, but that didn't matter. The mystery woman theory was born. Theories multiplied overnight. Internet detectives scoured archives, backups, and reposts, trying to prove the clip's existence. Critics dismissed it as internet imagination gone wild. But others argued, if nothing was being hidden, why did certain clips vanish so quickly? As pressure mounted, Erika's silence grew louder. Candace continued questioning inconsistencies, while Joe Rogan's audience demanded follow-ups. The media, sensing the growing tension, began covering the debate itself more than the actual event. The tragedy that began with one man's loss had now evolved into something bigger, a collision between grief, suspicion, and digital obsession. Candace maintained she wasn't out to destroy anyone. She simply refused to ignore what didn't add up. Erika, on the other hand, stayed out of the noise, her composure becoming both her shield and her mystery. And that's what kept people watching. The sense that beneath all the arguments, timelines, and leaked screenshots, there was still something missing. Something no one could quite name, but everyone could feel. Because in today's world, silence can mean many things: grief, guilt, or strategy. And when the internet decides to investigate, even silence becomes evidence. So as the dust settles and theories fade, one question still lingers. Was this all just the chaos of public mourning? Or was there truly more to the story than anyone was willing to